Taiwan needs to be on the lookout because an unexpected source of help is here for the PLA. Wait, what is this? What's going on? Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. There's been something rather strange going on. On December 25th, yes, Christmas Day, Chinese fishing boats in the East China Sea suddenly stopped what they were doing and did this instead. Yes, they're forming lines. This New York Times graphic shows they've started forming a reverse L shape, about 290 miles long from north to south. Then, between January 9th and January 12th, in the same area, they did this, forming pretty much a straight line about 200 miles long and staying there for about 30 hours. The number of ships involved in these unusual maneuvers is staggering. Thousands of boats, all coordinating their movements very precisely. It's pretty common knowledge these days that China has an enormous fishing fleet, swarming into the waters of other countries and fishing the oceans dry. They can even be seen from space. This eerie red glow is just a Chinese fishing fleet hunting giant squid. Nothing to worry about. In fact, according to the ocean conservation organization Oceana, China's fishing fleet comprises 57,000 industrial fishing vessels and accounted for 44% of the world's visible fishing activity between 2022 and 2024. But this is new and bigger than anything anyone's seen before. As the Deputy Director of the Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative at the Center for Strategic and International Studies put it, the number of ships involved is more than anything I've seen before. So what's going on? Well, according to China, nothing to see here, folks, move along. The Chinese embassy in Washington said that these waters are rich in seafood and the peak winter fishing period is between November and February. So what, they're just indicating it was just a little party, some kind of Chinese communist party? But according to a professor at the U.S. Naval War College, the scale, geometry, coordination, and rapid assembly and dispersal of these formations are simply irreconcilable with normal fishing behavior. Military precision is a little too formal for a group of folks known for having bumper stickers like "I'd rather be fishing." So what are these boats doing? Well, many experts think it's the CCP doing exercises with its maritime militia. China's maritime militia is a fleet of quote-unquote civilian ships that are actually paid by the CCP to be available for other purposes, such as blocking ships belonging to other countries, like this Philippine resupply ship, or this Philippines Coast Guard ship. They're also sent out to anchor in contested waters for weeks or even months to cement the CCP's illegal claims. Yep, nothing says territorial sovereignty like employing the same method as having your girlfriend stand in a parking space so no one else takes it. And they frequently carry high-tech surveillance equipment that can be used for, well, surveillance. According to the Pentagon, the CCP's maritime militia has gotten bigger and more sophisticated over the last decade. But these lines represent a whole new level of sophistication. And the future target of these exercises is most likely, you guessed it, Taiwan. A Taiwan blockade with a floating Great Wall. I like that, that's clever. Now, despite how it looks on satellite, these lines are not actually solid and probably couldn't enforce a blockade on their own. But it could help the Chinese Navy or the Chinese Coast Guard to enforce a blockade, assisting with, as the expert from CSIS said, dissuading, rerouting, and ultimately stopping commercial traffic cargo fuel shipments to Taiwan, and causing a jam worse than LA traffic, which has to be a war crime. Because of the size of the maritime militia and the distant water fleet, it's not hard to imagine that combined with the PLAN, they could do this around the entirety of Taiwan. And striking back wouldn't be so easy either. For one thing, it's not always easy to tell whether or not these boats are acting with the militia or if it's just an actual civilian fishing boat. Under international law, U.S. Navy ships, with few exceptions, are required to give way to vessels that are fishing. It's sort of a pedestrian right of way, but for boats, even if these boats are Trojan horses. Trojan seahorses? It would be really difficult to prove that any given vessel was, in fact, not fishing. That confusion is by design. And on top of that, the maritime militia could work to block crucial sea lanes vital for trade, which could harm the US and global economy. So what can anyone do? Well, according to Jill Goldenziel, who works on security and business risk, businesses and governments need to start planning now for the possibility of sea lanes being blocked. I'm talking alternative routes, plans B through Z, that sort of thing. On top of that, analysts should be identifying militia and distant fleet vessels and exposing them. Some of this is being done already, but more is needed. And I'll need to add that above all, the US needs to keep being active in the Indo-Pacific and supporting Taiwan and its neighbors. In short, we can all do our part. And for you, that can be as simple as hitting that like and subscribe button and sharing this episode with friends. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.